Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is another in my series on the Command and Colors game. What I intend by this video is to give you a bit of an overview of the game, show off some of the basic mechanics and let you know my thoughts and feelings on it. It's as simple as that. So Command and Colors, this is Napoleonics. So what I have here is the starter box, and the starter box have two armies in it. You can buy supplements that would have one army based on the nation you decide to go for. So in this one, you have the French army and you have the English army. Now this has been changed in future printings of the game to Britain. And of course it should be Britain and allies. British army never really fought on its own without allies in the Napoleonic period. But anyway, I always joke about that. I always find it funny. And Richard Borg has created a great board game. This is, I'm going to get into some of the details about what I particularly like and some of the things I dislike, but at its heart is a really intuitive, basic board game. You know, there's so many different types of Command and Colors: ancient, Knights of War, science fiction, fantasy, different versions, medieval now, even World War One, and I think there's a version which is similar for World War Two. There's so many different versions of it. It tells you how simple and elegant a system it is. What I will do is talk about what that elegance means this game doesn't have. But anyway, at its heart, you will have a board. So I'm just going to flip over to the board and then come back to show off some of the components. So this is set up for a scenario. So you will see the blocks there representing the army. So the French army there is in blue. The British army there is in red. And you'll notice on the board is actually just a plain board, green hexes. But these hexes has the terrain on it, and terrain does have an impact on the battle, affecting line of sight, movement perhaps, or how many dice get rolled against your target. But let's look at some of the components in detail. So what I'm going to do is pop up one of these on the board and zoom in a bit. Okay, so like it says before with the counters, you will get in the box a load of these counters. As you see, this is a French one. This would be a French cavalry counter, and it's blank. And you will get a sheet of stickers, and you will manually unstick these, put them on the counters, and away you go. As you see there, you do have some spare, so if you are a bit all fingers and thumbs, I've got big bass playing hands, so I had to use a couple of extras, I think. But yeah, you will stick them on. Now this is quite a big task. I think both my boxes, Ancients and Napoleonics, might have took me 2 hours plus each, and it is quite a laborious task. It's fairly simple to do. You're just unsticking the sticker, putting it on, and there's fairly clear instructions about what you need to do. But like I say, I don't want to labour the point, but it is a laborious task for time you do it. And the other thing is, you are relying on you getting it nice and straight and level. And some of mine weren't, so I'm going to show off there. So for example, this French Grenadier isn't quite as level as I'd like. Now you do get stickers for both sides. So actually on the board, if they're stood up like that, your opponent is looking at pictures of soldiers as well. You do get a large variety of troop types. So there you go, French Grenadiers, French Militia. I haven't got all of this out. I just picked up a few to show off. French Line Infantry. So you see there, the infantry blocks are smaller, and generally you're going to have 4 infantry blocks to a unit. Then we'll have cavalry, even differentiated in cuirassiers, guard, heavy cavalry. There's light cavalry, heavy cavalry, and again, artillery. And so the French are all in blue there. That's it. That's a few of the French blocks. Now the Portuguese in this, Portuguese are in brown. They stand out really nicely. Now with the expansions, I think the Russians, for example, would have blue blocks. I think the Austrians have white. The Prussians have kind of black, very dark grey black blocks. And finally, let's show off some of the British blocks. So your artillery, obviously bigger cubes. British heavy cavalry. Most of the British cavalry are set up on this scenario. Lines and rifles. So when you are putting together your units, one of the cool things, this is the French section. It's telling you how many blocks there are and any special rules that these units get. So they go line, light, grenadiers, young guard, old guard, militia. And if you look, most of the French are 4 blocks for regular units, 3 for artillery. Okay. Whereas if we look at the British, actually quite a few different troop types there, but standard line 4 as you'd expect. British light infantry, 5 small units of British rifles, 3 there. Guard grenadiers, big units, having 5. Most British cavalry are at 3. And just for completion's sake, there's the Portuguese. Now, once you've got your units on the board is basically split up into 3 sections: right flank, left flank, and centre. And you will have a certain amount of these cards. The amount of cards you get are dependent on the scenario. So, for example, Waterloo, when Wellesley and Napoleon are on the field, you're going to get 6 each. But to give you an idea what these cards are like. There you go. Assault right flank. Order a number of units or leaders on the right flank equal to the command, which is the number of cards held in your hand, including this card. So that would allow you to move quite a large amount of units in the right section of the board. There you go. Probe centre. Issue command to 2 units or leaders in the centre. So what you've got to do is think about, the strategy becomes, well, am I going to play a card to make it look like I'm attacking up one flank and really I've got 2 or 3 on the other flank to kind of pull together and then deliver knockout blows the enemy pulls reserves over? That's all part of the strategy of using the cards. Cards are quite a nice simple mechanic to get troops moving in the sectors. And that's it. The game itself says it's medium complexity. I actually think it's quite a simple complexity. That's the rule book. And actually at its heart is a really simple basic system. It's talking about the sectors of the battlefield there. How to set up the blocks you've got. Yeah, at its heart is a really basic system. You know, you've actually got about 8 pages of rules you probably need to know about, and then other stuff comes up as you need to. I mean, looking at cavalry breakthrough there, it's not going to happen every game, so you wouldn't need to sort of absorb all of that before you get to the battlefield, and just have a look at the rules as you go on. Now, Napoleonic tactics. In Napoleonic tactics, so the game is simple and elegant. That is a bonus. The disadvantage is it's simple and elegant. And with that, if you're after a game that captures a lot of the nuances of Napoleonic conflict, you might struggle to get all those nuances in. That's not to say the game doesn't have nuances, but your basic infantry unit only has 2 formations it can have. It's standard formation, or it can form a square to resist cavalry. And for me, part of the appeal of Napoleonic warfare is that columns and lines and squares, almost like a game of rock, paper, scissors as you try and control the battlefield. So that is one bit where it falls down on. However, I'm going to use a phrase again, simple and elegant, means my more casual gaming friends could get this and get a feel for commanding some armies on the battlefield. Certainly I played this with my 8 and 9-year-old kids at the time, and I got beat by them. I've also played it with my casual friends, and they have also been able to beat me at it. I don't have much luck with this game. Curse of being the guy introducing the game, I suppose. So there is that to consider. So if you're after a weighty deep Napoleonic game, this game probably isn't for you. If you're after something fun that captures the essence of the Napoleonic Wars, this game probably is for you. So a quick look through the scenario book there. Scenarios, you've seen the map, fairly easy to set up. Each scenario comprises a page. It's talking about how many cards you get. Basically, the better the general, the more cards you're going to get. Special rules. Winning a game, you win a game through capturing objectives on the battlefield, if there's objectives on the battlefield, and wiping out enemy units. So you can see there, the white would be the basic plain hexes, and then you've put down your terrain tiles there. So you've got a load of scenario battles there, a couple for Rolliker. I struggle to pronounce even English words, so I do apologise if I butcher any of the foreign place names. Vimerio, Coruna. Coruna is a battle I've fought loads, really enjoy it. British Army retreating to Coruna in much disarray, pursued by Sioux, pulling itself together to face off Sulu. And sadly, the fall of Sir John Moore, one of Glasgow's heroes. There's a massive monument to him in Glasgow. And you also have the Wetherspoons pub in Glasgow called Sir John Moore. A bit of trivia there. Talavera. Again, this focuses on the British part of it. The Spanish had a large contingent at Talavera, so I would expect with the Spanish supplement, you'd get the Spanish army and you have a scenario based around Talavera with the Spanish. Since you'd also need the core box for the French, you'd be able to use British units in that, I expect. The River Coa, Busaco, a couple of for those. Combat at Radina, Salamanca, a couple of Salamanca as well. The one I've set up here is Garcia Hernandez, which was an interesting one. It's a French rearguard after Salamanca, getting chased down by British cavalry, and they actually managed to break the French squares. Then we get combat at air, and finally the 100 Days Catabra, where you're using your Portuguese blocks as the sort of Brunswickers, Dutch Belgian allies, and then you have a Waterloo campaign up to 11 till 3 p.m. One of the other supplements there is a big epic battle system where you get bigger boards, you can use more stuff. So again, I suppose some of the scenarios with that, when you've got the Prussian supplement and stuff, the 100 Days Waterloo campaign battle could be a really interesting, really big one. But anyway, let's go have a quick look over at the board. Also should have mentioned when we talked about dice, you even put the stickers on the dice. So you have several symbols on. If you roll that, you kill an infantry block. If you roll that, you kill an artillery block. If you roll that, you force an enemy unit to retreat. If you roll that, you cause damage in close combat. I can also damage leaders. And that one's for cavalry. So, as an example, I actually moved this up earlier. You're generally getting one block per unit. Some of the unit special rules might give you extra dice for attacks. So this line unit, after all the movements completed, and you can see there's a line here for the different flanks. So left flank, center, right flank. But the shooting basically is these four guys would shoot. Well, this unit would shoot. It's comprised of 4 stands. So roll my dice. So this is a pretty good roll. So this kills off a cavalry block. This causes 2 retreats. There is a leader here, so he cancels 1, but that French unit will be that French unit has forced back that British unit by 1. If their leader wasn't there, would retreat 2. And that is as simple as that. Because it is a simple game, what you don't get is sort of a bit of granulation. The number of dice you roll might be different based on your unit size, what's left, or the terrain you're using, but the actual chances to cause damage to various different types of units doesn't change. And for me, that's one of the things that keeps it on the sort of more casual board game level for me and doesn't elevate it above and beyond that. So that is it. Worth pointing out, again, I think I mentioned earlier, the formations you can use is your unit is always your unit. There's no columns or lines. You're just the unit. If you've moved, you roll 1 less dice for shooting. If you are like base to base, you're in melee fighting, in which case the cavalry sabres come up. Now, if you're in square, it costs your command card to go into square. So when you are in square, it's limiting your options for the rest of your army to do stuff. And honestly, you can get this stickered, you can get it on the board, and you could be playing a game within 2 hours to sticker it, an hour to muddle for your first game, and then an hour for sort of a proper second game. And honestly, by your second game, you'll be flying with it. It really is a simple game. Good game. Like I say, I like it, but it's not something I'd pick up if I wanted the challenge of a grand tactical Napoleonic battle. But anyway, that's my thoughts on Command and Colors Napoleonics. I will do a similar sort of video looking at Command and Colors Ancients. And let me know your thoughts on it. I know a lot of people use this for a load of different things. Actually, really like the boards. We'll be using the board to help run a campaign coming up this month. Whenever I do a big game, I always kind of do a campaign segment leading up to it. And I think this time I'm going to be using this board rather than my own handwritten notes about it. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, give us a shout. It is just a light covering of the game. And yeah, let us know your thoughts. I'll catch you later. Goodbye.